Good Sunday morning. Welcome to WGN TV Political Report. I'm Paul Lisnick. It's week one of the new NFL season, and there are two big questions on the minds of Bears fans in the city and the suburbs this morning. The first, can they pull off a winning season? Good luck with that. But the second, where will the team make its permanent home? This week, Bears representatives made their first pitch to Arlington Heights residents about leaving Soldier Field for a new development on the site of suburbs' old racetrack. The plans include a domed stadium and entertainment district that has hotels and restaurants and commercial and residential spaces. The team started eyeing that site last year after months of failed talks with the city of Chicago to update what is now the oldest stadium in the NFL. In late July, Mayor Lightfoot proposed a $2.2 billion renovation to the stadium for whatever comes next.
We were going to make a very compelling case for them to stay in the city of Chicago, and I think that we've done that. And we're going to continue our discussions. We're going to continue our discussions excuse me, with the league. But as you know, I'm somebody who likes to plan. So we've got Plan B, Plan C, and others in the works as well if the Bears decide that they're going to abandon the city of Chicago. I hope they don't, and we're going to keep fighting that fight as long as we possibly can.
Well, for now, the Bears say their only focus is on the development in Arlington Heights. That's because they don't own the land yet, but they do have an agreement to buy it. The team says taxpayers will not fund the stadium itself, but they are asking for help when it comes to developing the surrounding area. Getting the thumbs up from Springfield, that's going to be tough.
I think I've said before, and I'll say it again, that we're not in the business of subsidizing the Chicago Bears or any other professional athletic team. Everything that we do to pave a road in Arlington Heights or anywhere around there is a benefit to people who use those roads. So if they end up moving to Arlington Heights, that will benefit them. I don't consider that a subsidy.
The Bears estimate the project could create thousands of jobs, bring in more than $16 million in tax revenue for Arlington Heights, and have $1 billion a year economic impact. Is the city of Chicago ready to give it all up? Well, Alderman Brian Hopkins joins me this morning to talk more about what's next. His second ward covers a diverse group of neighborhoods from the Gold Coast and near North Side to Old Town, Lincoln Park, parts of Ukrainian Village to the west as well. Alderman, good to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Paul.
So most people are resigned to accepting that the Bears are basically going to be gone. They're going to Arlington Heights, but you say not so fast. Something else might happen here.
Right. This is a very complicated deal they're trying to put together, and I think they did tip their hand a little bit when they said we're not going to ask for public subsidy to build the stadium construction costs, leaving the door open to a request for public financing for a whole host of other things. And depending on what those things are, and depending on what the price tag is and what the public's expected to pay, this deal in Arlington Heights could potentially collapse under its own weight.
If it does, is Chicago then in a better bargaining position? I mean, is there strength there, or it's a matter of, no, we just get them back?
Well, I think the Bears are somewhat sincere, although it is a negotiating ploy, when they say they are absolutely leaving Soldier Field. They're not interested. They're not even willing to talk to us right now about what we could do to make it a more attractive second choice or a so-called Plan B. I think that's true because they really have put all their eggs in the Arlington Heights basket, and it makes sense for them to pursue that. But again, there's no guarantees here. This is a very complex deal that they're trying to put together, and hypothetically, if it does fall apart for whatever reason in the next 12 months, what are they going to do? They'll have to come back to Chicago, and then they'll start to talk to us about the possibility of renovating Soldier Field. So we should be ready if that happens.
So the main reason it might fall apart in Arlington Heights is because the people have said, don't come to us to pay for this thing. So if it does fall apart and it comes back to Chicago, isn't that the mayor and city council saying to Chicagoans, well, I guess you better get ready to pay for it?
Well, absolutely not. You know, we're already paying for it, and there's no appetite to pay for anything more. But if the Bears do leave Soldier Field, we still own that. The city taxpayers through the Park District still owns what will essentially be almost a white elephant on the lakefront, and that's unacceptable. We can't have that. So there's talk of possibly expanding soccer offerings, getting some international teams to compete here on a regular basis. You could play lacrosse in Soldier Field. That's really an up-and-coming sport. So there's a lot of other possibilities to keep Soldier Field from being mothballed. We should be talking about that as a city. At the same time, we're talking about what we might do if the Bears Arlington Heights deal falls through.
Yeah, I don't think it'd get mothballed, but there's concerts, there's a variety of means of venue, but I'm sort of curious, what would the financial loss to the city be? I mean, do you think there's a way to say, hey, it's the same as if the Bears are there financially, or do you think we have to be ready to take a hit? And maybe that's why Mayor Lightfoot is lining up NASCAR and looking at 10-year Lollapalooza deals, because she sees that potential hit.
Sure, and some of the things that she's talking about, frankly, have a price tag that's, ridiculously out of reach. A retractable dome and some of the other things that where Soldier Field just isn't really set up to be modified in that way.
Looks like they're not getting that in Arlington Heights either.
And they're not. They've ruled out retractable, but they are getting a dome. Any way you try to dome Soldier Field is going to be cost prohibitive. So there has to be other alternatives to keeping the Bears on the lakefront, to playing outside in famous Bears weather. How many games have you sat through where there was a blizzard, and it becomes part of the experience and part of the attraction there. But I also think part of the financing package that could potentially keep them in Chicago involves a sports book. It involves revenue from gambling and betting that's going to subsidize ticket sales. They're planning to do that in Arlington Heights. There's no reason why we can't find a way for them to do that in Chicago.
You won't catch me in the blizzard days. Politically, what would the loss of the Bears be politically to Mayor Lightfoot in a mayoral election? Does she own that?
I think she does. She put it out there that she was going to save the Bears and keep them in Chicago. She drew a line in the sand. I think any of us would have done the same thing. No one wants to see the Chicago Bears not be in Chicago anymore. There's forces out of her control, though, in fairness to her, and for all of us, we're faced with the same predicament. But some of the polling data that has been done in recent months, it frankly surprised me. People seem resigned to this, and true Bears fans seem willing to accept, as long as they stay somewhere in the region, they're still going to be in our team. You've seen that happen in New York and other jurisdictions, Los Angeles, where the team is now playing in the suburbs, or in New York, even New Jersey for a while. And the regional fans still considered it their region and their team that they cheered for diehard. So that probably won't change the Bears fan base too much if they do move to the suburbs.
Let me change topics while I have you here. Migrants are being sent up by bus from Texas, not being coordinated with Mayor Lightfoot at all. They're just arriving here. And you have this seeming tension between Chicago being a sanctuary city, a welcoming city, but there are people who say, we have our own homeless, we have our own problems. What's your view on it?
Yeah, this is an appalling situation. I've seen the statistics recently from the numbers of migrants that are coming in being bussed in, and one thing that really took me aback was the bus drivers who are driving here from Texas have told us they're being paid extra to make this trip, and they've all been forced to sign non-disclosure agreements where they can't reveal who's paying them and under what conditions. So something nefarious is definitely afoot with this. It's not right. It's not right to use human beings as political fodder to make a point, and we have to address this. They're here now. Many of them have indicated they won't stay. In fact, we're estimating only about 10% of the current migrants that are here being housed in hotels in the region have said they want to stay in Chicago. They all have other ideas about other destinations, in the Midwest and across the country where they want to go. But it is a humanitarian crisis, and it's going to be on the governments of the receiving areas to try and integrate them and support them and give them what they need.
And Mayor Lightfoot has said she's reached out to Greg Abbott of Texas. He's not responding really to her and helping out. Then again, she's also sending people over to, Mayor Gary Grasso and to other people. Does there need to be a coordination effort between everybody in Texas and here in Illinois and Chicago?
Absolutely, and there is no coordinating effort right now. It's almost like a hot potato that's just being handed off and kicked around. And again, you can't do that to human beings, regardless of how you feel about the border controversy. And as an alderman, I have people in my ward who support building the wall, and I have people in my ward who want an open border and be a sanctuary city and a sanctuary country. So I have this wide, diverse range of opinions on this. But what we all agree is you can't treat human beings the way these people are being treated. This is appalling. It is immoral. It is wrong. And it's incumbent upon the governments involved in this to step up and take care of this situation and not let it continue to exacerbate and get worse.
A lot of buzz, Alderman, about you making an announcement for mayor Sunday morning. We've got cameras here for you. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm still considering it. I haven't closed the door on a mayoral run just yet. I am right now, though, preparing to run for re-election. We're losing probably about 30% of the city council. Before this is over, we could see the highest turnover in one cycle that the city council's ever seen. So in a legislative body, stability, consistency, leadership, and experience are important. I may need to stay in the city council and provide that level of stability. So right now I'm looking to run for re-election, but things could change. We'll see in the next couple of days. I might have a surprise announcement. Haven't ruled it out.
Well, if you do, make the surprise here.
Okay.
Alderman Brian Hopkins, thanks so much.
Thanks, Paul.
We're going to take our first break. Coming up next on WGN-TV Political Report, from inside City Hall to life outside City Council, a group of ex-aldermen weigh in on the exodus by their former colleagues and the future of Chicago politics. That's coming up next.